Welcome to Window on the World. In this edition, we are in conversation with two brothers studying at Missouri Southern State University who come to us from Mexico. Welcome, Hector and Luis Moreno. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for the invite.
So tell me a little bit about yourselves. I'd like to just start with what you're studying here at Missouri Southern and your major.
Well, I am studying international affairs, basically a career about the international system, which is basically the relationships between every actors on it, countries, organizations, companies, any kind of stuff.
You mentioned you're 23, so you are in Mexico. What university were you there before you transferred to Missouri Southern?
The name of my university was Universidad Iberoamericana in the campus of a city called León. It was a Catholic university. And well, I was there like 7 semesters, 3.5 years, until, well, we received the news that we were going to move to Joplin. We will talk about that a little later.
So officially though, you're a junior here now, you said?
Yep.
All right. So let's talk to Luis a little bit. Tell us what you're majoring in here.
I'm majoring in computer forensics. So basically what I want to do is in crime scenes or stuff that involves data and mobile phones, everything. I keep the information and try to dig in for the legal purposes.
So how old are you?
I'm 20.
You're 20. So you said you both moved here. What brought you to Joplin and brought you to Missouri Southern as a school?
Well, it's actually a curious story. So my dad works for Leggett & Platt.
I see.
He has been working for Leggett & Platt since 2004. And he, last year, actually it was almost like a year, it was November 21, he received an offer to be transferred to the headquarters on Carthage.
I see.
So yeah, well, Luis and I take the chance, so we move with our parents, and it's here to, you know, the opportunity to study in an American university, considered the best in the world.
So tell us, is it different? Is learning different here than there? What are the biggest differences in university life, say, you were in León, Mexico, and then Joplin, Missouri?
I mean, well, the main difference is, of course, the language. But in general, about learning, it hasn't been very different. If there is any difference, I will say that here it's a little better because the academic life is like better. I mean, the studies are pretty much the same level, which is something positive. But for example, what I like here is that there are like more activities to do, more things to do in the campus, more opportunities to socialize with your classmates, or in our case, with the other international students.
Yeah. So are you part of the international club, and what kinds of things do you do and enjoy?
What kind of things?
Like, as you said, there's a lot of more social activities.
Yeah.
What do you like?
For example, I like that normally my friends here organize volleyball games. I mean, I never have been like the sport one, that's him. But in general, I enjoy those times spending with them, playing. Sometimes we do activities outside of the campus. For example, last Friday we went to Silver Dollar City in a trip organized by the English program. And in general, we usually have a lot of fun. Luis also has his own group of friends.
So tell us about that, Luis. And then he says you're also into athletics. Do you play any sports or intramural sports even?
I used to play soccer mainly. It's what it's most common in Mexico to play. I like American football. I enjoy watching and I enjoyed playing, but it wasn't just for me. It was more soccer for me.
Right.
So yeah, I like this university because you can feel that people are close together. You feel, don't get me wrong, in Mexico, the teachers help and everything, but here I feel like they get more like trying to help you, and there's more programs for helping the students on everything. So I really like how everything feels close here in Missouri.
You feel like there's a good focus on your success?
Yes, Missouri Southern State, I feel like they really care about you being successful in what you want to do.
What do you feel about the difference in where you were studying before and studying here? Do you see many differences in I guess, the learning aspect? Or you said
it's like I'm saying, it's really similar between Mexico and here in the United States. It's really similar, the education system, but the fact that the teachers are more focused on the students, not just like giving the subject and like imagine that you're understanding. Here they really are like, are you understanding? Do you need help? And that's, I think, the most that it's different.
Yeah. Excellent. So tell us what you think of Joplin. Was it very different from your homeland? Was there a little bit of culture shock? You can go first, Luis.
It's really different.
Yeah.
Because I mean, in Mexico, we used to live like in big cities. I don't want to say big cities, not like New York or something, but there was more things, like more buildings, more malls and stuff like that. I like Joplin because
you were in Mexico City.
We were born there, but we only lived a short time there.
We visit family there also. So
yeah, we moved before I was 5, before he was 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we moved to another city, a little smaller, like 700,000, or then another of 2 million.
Those are still bigger cities than Joplin, though.
Yeah,
so,
it's
so you were
really
saying, what I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
you.
no,
What you like about Joplin?
It's a really peaceful place. You can enjoy the nights because it's like almost no traffic. There's beautiful places to visit here in Joplin, like to relax and just chat with friends or even take a coffee. Downtown, it's a beautiful place. I like going to downtown because there's a lot of things to do. But the main in Mexico, it was more like parties and going to the mall. It was more common to go to the mall back in Mexico that I'm used to do now, because of the main reason. It was more like go with friends and go anywhere. And here is more like enjoying the night, like enjoying the peacefulness. You feel like cleaner. You can say it.
It's less of the sort of the industrial side of a city where it's gritty. So what do you feel about Joplin and even the Midwest in general, now that you've been in this country longer now?
I mean, before coming here, I think I have never been in the Midwest. So it's kind of, I mean, it's good. It's quiet, it's beautiful, it's clean, as my brother says. People are very nice. I mean, this could apply mainly to Joplin, but in general, I feel that most of the Midwest are like this. I mean, there are no big cities, but that's okay, because sometimes we just need to be quiet, and it's not that we are lacking something here. I mean, Joplin has pretty much everything we need, everything we want. And
what would you say you miss about Mexico? Are there aspects of Mexico you miss? Part of the culture?
I think, I mean, the thing that I miss more is obviously my family and friends. But something in general, I will say that maybe, I'm not sure. I mean, people in Mexico was like, could be very kind. But we also have like that here, so it's really hard to say. And I mean, it's not very different actually.
One main thing that I particularly this is one thing I don't like about Joplin. I love Joplin, but you cannot walk to various places. In Mexico, you can walk almost to everywhere,
Yeah.
but here it's really difficult to go and walk to places.
So you have to have a vehicle
Yes.
or a way to get around. And have you gotten a vehicle? Has that made it easier now that you have
Yeah,
one?
it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
Now what they have a car, and we have bikes, so
Okay.
it helps a lot.
So a lot of people think about food, culture being associated with food. So what do you like about the food in this country? Tell us about food in your country. I mean, we always hear about like, oh, there's Mexican food, but there's also true food from Mexico and recipes
Yeah.
very different. This is not always Taco Bell. So, you know, tell us what you like about maybe foods that you've discovered here and what you might miss from home.
Well, food from here, definitely the pumpkin cake, the pumpkin sweets.
Really?
I
Okay.
mean, I was like, okay, maybe I am not gonna like this, but when I try it, they are very delicious, really. It's a great food. Wow. About the rest of the food, I mean, it's hard to say because as city guys, we are used to food from all over the world. Being from Mexico, we are especially used to American food. But there are some things that were not so common there. I mean, besides the pumpkin, it also mac and cheese are not
Okay.
very common there.
Really? Okay. What about you, Luis?
I personally like Mexican food for obvious reasons. It's the food that raised me, basically. And I mean, you're not wrong when talking about tacos because I know it's a stereotypical thing, but we really eat tacos on almost everything. Like any kind of food, you can put it in a tortilla, and it's
Yeah.
delicious. But I like American food. For example, hamburgers are my favorite. I really like them, and I don't know. I like how easy and quick it is to get a food here, and I see it really practical. There's a lot of drive-thrus
Right.
here, and it really helps. For example, for people that need to go and work or anything, that you just need go eat even in the car, and you're set to go. And,
Yeah.
and that's one thing that I think Mexico is not that common. It's more common to go to the restaurant, sit down, and have the meal there.
Do you feel like you also cook at home? Do you miss home cooking? I mean, is that something that is part of your culture to cook at home more?
Yeah, we could say. I mean, home cooking is like very common in Mexico. Also, you go to many restaurants; they are basically home cooking. I mean, they are also here, but I think that in Mexico they are more common. And in general, yeah. So we are used to home cooking. We even can cook some basic stuff.
So give me your favorite recipe from home that you would make here.
Probably, I could say like chicken with some spaghetti, maybe. I think that's the main thing that I can do, and it feels like home cooking.
Yeah. How about you, Hector?
Well, from some time to the present, I stopped cooking a lot at home. But I think that in general, my favorite thing to cook at home, it's actually a pretty thing to do. It is called quesadilla.
Okay.
It is basically just a full tortilla. You can put inside whatever, cheese, mushrooms, chicken, and anything.
So
I mean, food, having food with family, it's very important in Mexico, and I haven't had the pleasure to go to an American house to see how it is here, but in Mexico it's really important to have dinner with family, and it's a time to catch up with the family. It's a very personal time.
So the dinner table is important.
Yes,
In
it's
Mexico.
very important.
And is there an issue when somebody can't make it to dinner? I mean, is it very, very important to be there at the same time?
I mean, it's not that an obligation that you need to be here,
Right.
but you always try to be there. It's like
It's more actually it's more a pleasure than an obligation actually, and it's something that we try to do as much as possible. For example, even today, when we are home and our dad just came from work, he usually wants to go to the table and sit with us to see how we do on the day.
It's a
We
time to
ask-
catch up. It's
Yeah.
basically it.
Good conversation.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you're talking about your dad kind of having an interest in what you do. Talk to us about the culture from Mexico and here into the role of parents in the family, and is it a position of respect, and then, you know, what is the family dynamic for you all?
Well, in Mexico, family it's basically, I mean, in every part, but in Mexico it feels like it's almost more basic, the center of the society. So, for example, it's not uncommon that people live with their parents until they get married, or at least until they finish their career. For what I understand here, the common thing is that most people live at 18.
Right, they go into an apartment
Yeah.
or something, but living at home is
A family,
Perfect.
it's the most precious thing that we have as we see it, and you always want to be close to your family, even though you go out of get out of the house. My parents still talk to his dad, and almost every day on the phone.
Yeah.
And when we were in Mexico, we tried to travel to where my granddad was and just spend the weekend with them, because family is really, really important in Mexico.
Yeah, that's also another thing. When we say family, we are not talking just about siblings and parents. We are also talking about grandparents,
Uncles.
uncle, aunts, cousins, even
extended family.
yeah,
Yes.
even in some case with second cousins.
Wow. So big families.
Yes.
And are you part of a big
families.
family?
Yep.
So let's talk about young people in America typically have a first-time job, sometimes in a restaurant. For you, is work something that you start as a teenager? Is it something did you take jobs here, or are you just focused on school?
Right now, we are just focusing on school. I am probably going to start working here in the campus next semester. I mean, if my visa allows me. That's another issue. I have a different visa from Luis. Well, that's another story. I have never had the chance to have a job, but I actually want to have it during my teenage age. I think that in general, most people in Mexico, for one reason or another, they start working at young ages. I mean, legally, I think that the minimal age is 14.
Okay.
From 14 to 16, you can just work like 6 hours, and you need the consent of parents. After that, it's basically like a normal job. Or I think there is another change at the 18, but right now I don't remember.
Yeah.
So yeah, most people start working at young ages. Sometimes to get experience, other times because they need something to spend their time, other times to gain skills, many times for need. So yeah.
So did you have a first-time job?
No, I haven't quite had a job yet, because I disagree with my brother actually. So it's kind of weird, because I don't think that it's that common, at least in my social group and people I know. It's not that common to have a job until maybe college or last years of high school,
Sure.
because that's maybe it's for need to pay college, to pay tuition, but normally you don't need to have a job to pay of college, because public schools and everything, it's really accessible to go. So yeah, it's not that common for
Okay.
teenagers to have a job.
Right. All right. So America has many different people of faiths and religions. Do you have a certain religion, and how is it practiced? Is it practiced the same here as in your country? Tell us a little about some of the practices you might have.
Well, we grew up in a Roman Catholic family. I'm still an active practitioner. I try to go to the church every weekend. I normally pray before going to sleep.
So it's an important part of your life.
Relatively, yes.
Mexico, it's a really religious country, actually. There's the vast majority of people in Mexico, it's Catholic. Religion, it's really important because it helps people overcome some adversities that they have, maybe. Like if they have problems in life, they pray, and it gives them that extra motivation that believe in God is going to help them. It gives them extra motivation to push on.
Excellent. So let's talk a little bit about politics. I know this is one of your favorite topics. It often makes the news here. So what is the politics and political atmosphere like in your country? And is it something that young people like yourself are involved in politics?
Yes. I mean, for example, well, politics in Mexico are more complicated than here. For start, we have like 4 main parties.
4 parties. We have 2.
Yeah, and
typically.
four small parties. 4 main parties and 4 small parties.
I guess I should say we also have the Libertarian Party, so I shouldn't say we only have 2, but you're right. Sometimes there's bigger parties and smaller parties.
Yeah.
So is it something you get involved in the political process, or
Yeah.
are youth allowed to?
Yeah, I mean, we can normally not that legal. It's difficult to say. So yeah, most parties have, like, for example, their young men division, young men and women. The youths of the party, basically. But in general, you cannot participate so much in politics until you are 18 years old. I mean, there have been some efforts to do some activities, like, for example, we have a central organism that organized elections there in Mexico and do a lot of things like motivate the participation of people. So I remember that once they made like an activity to know like the opinion of the children.
Okay. So, but I mean, at your age, you are allowed to vote. Are you still allowed to vote in Mexico, or have you become citizens of the U.S.? Do you have dual citizenship? Tell us about that.
Well, for now we are just Mexicans. But even though if one day, for example, we get the American citizenship, we will be still able to vote in Mexico. And there is also, you can vote from the outside. For example, there are exactly outside space for voting. Yeah.
And so, because you can vote absentee in this country if you're like not in the place where you would normally vote. So, is politics important to you, Luis?
I mean, it's important because it's our country. We need to have a voice in what we want for our country. In Mexico, it's the legal age to vote. It's 18, so it's a really young age to vote, and I think that it has a lot of pros that young people can also decide what they want because it's their country also. So I think politics are really important.
Do you feel like you have a voice in making the laws of your country? Or, I mean, we have states that also have state laws. How is it different or similar in Mexico, where you would be living?
Well, we also have federal laws and state laws. We have like 7 levels of laws hierarchy.
Okay.
At the top there is the Constitution and supposedly the international agreements. Then there are the federal laws and, well, pretty much everything else. Usually in Mexico it's also, we have like the third of the population of the states, but pretty much the same quantity of legislators. The legislative power divides in 2 cameras, one called Cámara de Diputados, that will be the equivalent to the Representatives House.
Okay.
and we also have our own Senate.
So somewhat similar to how the U.S.
Yes,
is set up.
in general, probably because of the historic context of the founding of Mexico, we have a very similar system to the United States,
Okay.
but we also have our own difference. For example, in Mexico, we don't have re-election for the president. The president can only serve one term of 6 years.
Okay.
Also, the states, in theory, have a lot of autonomy. But if we compare with the autonomy that they have in the United States, in Mexico they are not very autonomous, and most of the power are completely centralized.
Okay. Interesting to know.
And
So if we get close to wrapping up here, I'd like to know just a little bit about what kind of job or career you'd like to have. You said, maybe crime scene investigator. Do you plan to try and seek a job here in the United States, or do you want to go back to Mexico to work once you graduate?
well, I haven't decided yet. Oh,
Okay. Luis?
Yeah, so I would love to have a job here in the United States because I think America is a great place for opportunities of jobs, especially because even though if I have a job here and then I want to move to another place, it opens a lot of doors, opportunities to work in various places. So yes, I would like to work here and have a job.
Well, thank you both for sharing about your culture, your nation, and your time here at Missouri Southern. And we appreciate you being our guest on Window on the World.
Thank you for the invite.
thank you for the invite.
For Window on the World, I'm Lisa Oligas. Thanks for watching.